I'm going to show you my acceptance rate. It's usually people who are saying they cherry pick that aren't making a lot of money. People will disagree with that, and I just don't understand how. I don't know what more I can say because I'm not being fully honest with you guys. I am cherry picking. I want to do $100,000 this year, and this is where we're at so far. This is the spreadsheet I made. It has all the money I made on it. But what I like to do first is I like to show people directly from the apps first, so that they don't think I'm lying or making things up, because I'm often accused of lying. So we'll start with Uber. I don't do a lot of Uber in this town. I don't think my town is a great town for Uber, though Uber has their instances where if you do Uber, you will have a high hourly rate. Like the Uber bonuses in my town, like the heat maps, are better than the Lyft heat maps, but Lyft is more consistent. It's more likely for me to see a $5 zone on the map with Lyft than it is with Uber. But when Uber is truly busy, I can see bonuses up to $20, $25, $30, when Lyft in my market caps their bonuses at $15. I've seen other people's bonuses at higher than $15, but in my market, it hasn't been over 15 in a while. It used to be 50, 5-0. Now it's just 15. So with Uber, I made $30.94 last week. That was on the 17th, 43 minutes, 48 seconds with one trip. That's it. Nothing crazy. I try to keep both apps running. If I see some good deals. But for most of last week, I had a ride challenge for 120 rides from Monday to Friday. And so that took up most of my time on Lyft. If I prioritize platforms based off of who's given the best bonus, and then I'll split my time based off of who's given the most money, just period. So let's look at Lyft. With Lyft, Monday, January 15th, I did 29 rides, pretty much 10 hours online, 11 tips, about 30% tip rate, 215. Scroll up. I did a lot of short rides. Look at all these short rides with tip. A $3 ride, right? A $3 ride. The estimated time was 10 minutes. The actual was 10 minutes. The actual was 2.9. So that's 3 miles. Let's bring the calculator out. So 3-mile ride. We divide that by what? We made $8 on that ride. Nope, I did that backwards. Divide it by 3. So that's $2.6 per mile. And a lot of people argue with me like, yeah, don't take $3 trips. So they'll be like, oh, I don't let anyone in my car for less than $5. Then you would have missed out on this. And if I took your advice, I would have missed out on it. So even if it's a small tip on a short ride, it's better than taking like a medium range ride and getting like a $5 to $7 tip. Look at these, even this dollar tip, it's still fine because it's a short ride. I'm not spending a lot of gas on this ride. Look at this $5 tip, $3, $3 tip, $3 tip, $5 tip. And I'm talking myself into these tips. I'm very good with customer service. I probably need to make a video about it, but I have a really great ability for connecting with people very quickly in a short period of time. Connecting with people could also mean knowing when to shut up, right? It's not just about talking their heads off. So Thursday, January 18th, that was my birthday. This was the last day of the ride streak, and I had 5 minutes left to do the ride streak. Like the day resets at 5 a.m. in my market. I finished, like you can see my last ride. Like I got it at 5. Sorry, not 5. I got it at 4. You see it up here. You can't see it up there because of the way I have my screen set up. So hold on. There we go. So you can see I got the ride challenge at 4:54 a.m. So like 6 minutes left, and it was for 260. Well, this half was for 260. The first half was for like 200 and change. And I asked people earlier this week if they would do this challenge. Some people said no, and I don't understand those people. But I did 35 rides, 12 hours, and I got $488.44 for it. I guess this is a late tip that just came in on Saturday. I didn't put this on my spreadsheet because I'm actually just seeing this. So I do need to go and put that on my spreadsheet. So I even though I had a ride challenge for significantly less, it was like $100 ride challenge for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I decided to chill. I took a few days off. I planned on working. I got a little lazy, if I'm going to be honest with you. And I should have worked these days. I don't really have a good excuse. There's other things I wanted to do. I saw my tax documents came from Uber and Lyft, and I wanted to like start focusing on those so that I can do my taxes on TurboTax, even though it's early, so I can get a video out as quickly as possible. It's like I'm going to record my screen, file my taxes with TurboTax so that I can kind of walk you through what you need to understand as a rideshare driver. And I want you guys to be comfortable knowing enough about rideshare to be able to do your own taxes, even if you don't want to. You can always jump on TurboTax, and they only charge you once you submit. So you can jump on TurboTax, figure out what your taxes will like, play around with it, see what it says, and you don't have to submit. You can always go to your tax professional and see what they do, see what their numbers look like, and then look at the discrepancy between your TurboTax and your tax preparer. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. So I'm just explaining why I got lazy with rideshare over the weekend. Now we're going to go and we are going to look at the spreadsheet. So this is a spreadsheet I made. You can get access to this by supporting me on Patreon. Don't think of it as you buying this for me. That's not what it is. For those who support me on Patreon, I'm going to be giving them goodies, right? There are other things that I'm going to develop and make that I'm going to give to my Patreon supporters. I might come up with a physical product that where if you've supported me for X amount of months, I will just ship it to you for free. So don't think you're buying this from me. That's not how it is. You are supporting me, and as a thank you for supporting me, I'm giving you the spreadsheet. This one is rideshare related. I'm going to make a personal budget spreadsheet that I'm also going to put on my Patreon. So the Patreon is in every link of all my videos. So if you want to support me, that's a great way to do it. So on this spreadsheet, I have my mileage here. I like tracking it. So I know there's like apps that will track your location automatically and they'll do this, they'll do that. But with this, I like putting it in myself because there's no room for mistakes outside of myself. Like if I'm going to get audited and there's a mistake, I want the mistake to be my fault, not the app's fault. And if you trust Uber and Lyft to track all your mileage, I'm telling you right now, you're missing out on mileage. Any business mileage you drive that is with the app off won't be counted. So if you go offline to go and drive to like a hotspot, the app's not going to count that. But as far as the IRS is concerned, that's still business miles, and you want to track 100% of your business miles because it matters. It lowers your taxable income, and as rideshare drivers, we make money on our taxes. So keep that in mind. So you can see my mileage. I do need to update the spreadsheet to be more weekly oriented. This is kind of just monthly oriented, and I've seen the complaints. Like I would go through this. People don't really know what I made last week. So here's what I made in January so far, and not just last week. All right, so we're gonna quickly go through these totals once because I do have a Lyft referral in there for $920, and my personal goal is for Tristan Thomas to make $100,000 this year. That's like my top goal. My second goal is for Tristan Thomas to make $100,000 this year, not including referral fees. My third goal is for Tristan Thomas to make $100,000 this year net, like after Uber and Lyft fees. And then my fourth goal is for Tristan Thomas to make $100,000 this year after expenses, right? So the easiest goal is at the top. And as I check that goal off, I'm going to focus on the other one. I'm going to reevaluate, look at how much time do I have left in the year to hit this and try to hit it. So that's what the plan is with that. So the total so far for 3 weeks, first 3 weeks of January, is $4,854.94. Now, if let's do some $100,000 math. If I wanted to make $100,000 in 2024, I would say $100,000 divided by how many weeks in the year? 52. We have an extra day thanks to leap year. So I would have to make $1,923 every single week. Now we've just got done with week 3. So we'd multiply this by 3. And it says I need to have $5,769 in order to be on track to make $100,000 in 1 year. So if we subtract the amount we've made so far, 4,854.95, I'm behind about $900, right? That's not bad. I'd rather be ahead. If I worked last weekend, I'd be either on par or ahead. If I did work over the weekend, I would have aimed to make about $400 a day. Whether I get it is let's be a little more modest. Let's say I earned $300 a day for 3 days. I'd be down $14. So it's still reachable. I'm going to have to buckle down and get a little more consistent out. I don't want to be on target, and I definitely don't want to be behind. I want to be ahead enough to where if I need to take a day off or something happens to my car, I'm not stressing about it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the remainder of January to try to get, let's try to be $500 ahead. And I don't know what that number looks like. Maybe I can calculate it real quickly and see how much days are left in the year. My calendar is not popping up. Okay, so there's 8 days to the 30th. I think January has 31 days. So I have 9 days left. I don't feel like doing the math right now. Sorry, guys. We'll just see if I hit it or not. All right, so let's, before we even go run down, I'm going to take the Lyft referral out so we can, I want it to be more realistic to you guys. I have access to getting more referrals than you guys do because I have a YouTube channel, right? New people come on my content all the time. They sign up for the referral. And, I can show you, right? I am going to take this off screen so I don't show my location, but I'm going to show you how much I've earned in referrals over the years. Okay, here we go. So this is the referral screen. And you can see if I refer a new driver to Charleston, they'll give me $1,500 bonus. That's the highest I've ever seen it. Once they give 120 rides in 30 days. However, if someone outside of my area does it, it's going to be reflective on their market. So for example, if I go to pending, you can see Justin G, he just signed up. Go you, Justin. If you want some great tips on how to do this as quickly as possible, make sure you use your area filter. I have a video on it. It's called How I Doubled My Income with New Ride Streak Bonus. Use that video, use the tips in that video, and try to get a lot of short rides. Like I just showed you, I was able to get a lot of short rides. And then Cheryl B, she's only giving me $290 if she completes this. She probably won't complete it just based, she's at 8%, 11 days left. And that's okay. You know, you try it, you decide you don't like it and you want to stop, that's on you. But I will say, anyone who finishes this bonus and they show me that they are this person, I will give you 10% of whatever they give me. I think that's fair. I think that's okay. And I can show you the history. So because I have a YouTube channel, I've been able to reach a lot of people. That's like $8,000 in earned bonuses. And there's a lot of people who, you know, I could have made more money. They didn't complete it. That's okay. Right? It's whatever. This is icing on top. I don't like base my life off of this. And this is over the course of 3 years. It's nice. It's just icing on top. But all that to say, I don't think it's fair for me to, like, when I break down my numbers, use my Lyft referral, because I want to, the goal of me doing this is to try to encourage people to put the effort in to make more money if possible. And effort isn't just time. It means putting effort into strategy and things like that. So it would be dishonest of me to be like, yeah, look at my effort, and then have my referrals in there. So I'm not doing that. So without my referral, I am at $3,934.95. And based off of simple math, that means I'm about $2,000 behind where I should be if I want to make $100,000 before the Lyft referral. So I need to crank that number up. I need to get to working. Even without the referral, you can see that I'm making $33.75 per hour, right? That's gross. After Uber and Lyft take their cut, this is how much money I'm making before my personal expenses, before taxes. I drove 3,256 miles, and that's going to show you how much I drove per mile. So I'm making $1.21 per mile. You have some YouTubers who are saying I make 30 cents per mile, 50 cents per mile. I don't know where they get their fake news from, but this is gross. So this is before expenses and taxes. And then we have my expenses so far for this month is $295.25. This is a little misleading. It's not including my monthly recurring bills, because this is kind of my first time doing it this month this way. I'm realizing a lot of mistakes and things I can improve on for February. So in February, at the start of the month, I'm going to list all of my known expenses. And that way I'll have a clear cut idea of how much money I need to make at minimum in order to cover my recurring costs. So if you have the spreadsheet, I definitely recommend changing how you do it if you've been following and doing it the way I do it. But so far, this is all I've spent on that's not recurring. This is all I've spent. So I keep getting air. I know I have a slow leak. I haven't looked for it, and I am capable of fixing it myself. I'm being lazy. If it's in the sidewall, I won't even be able to fix it. And I'll just get a new tire at that point. But because I'm leaking air, and this goes for you too, if you don't have an emergency fund, you should be, okay, now as I drive, I'm realizing I'm leaking air. I should save up for 2 new tires. Whenever you replace a tire, I always recommend replacing at least 2, just because of how the tires get worn down. You don't want one brand new tire on the front. So I always replace at minimum 2. So then I also built a little tax section to the spreadsheet where it takes my mileage, it multiplies it by the tax deduction amount, which is 67 cents in 2024. And then it shows you your taxable income by subtracting your mileage write-off from your income. And then I assume a 10% rate. I'm going to change this soon. Once I do my taxes and I'm able to see how much money I made last year, how much money I took home from Uber and Lyft after they took their cut. And then I'm going to calculate from that, what percentage of that did I have to pay in taxes? And then I'll use that here in my tax rate to get my estimated taxes, right? It's just estimated. So my estimated taxes so far is $175. And that's on an amount of $3,934. It's not a lot. People like to say it's a lot whenever I make videos showing how much money I make. They're like, oh, you paid over half that in gas and expenses. Like I average, let's see, so far, and this will go up, right? But I paid $300 in expenses and I made $4,000. I expect this number to jump up to like maybe 450. So I'll be sitting in the 10 to 12% rate. So that means for every dollar I make, right? Every dollar I make with Uber and Lyft, I'm spending about 12 to 13 cents to make that money. Let me up those numbers. For every $1,000 I make with Uber and Lyft, I'll be spending about $120 to make that money. So with the amount of time aside that it takes to make that money, that's a good return on investment. Not a lot of businesses are running that. Walmart runs at like a 3% profit margin. I'm running at like an 85% profit margin on a bad day. So that's just to put those numbers into perspective. And then I also have it where it calculates your true net and your true hourly. So this is after expenses and after taxes. I make my actual carry home, the money that's actually going into my pocket is $3,464.36. My hourly is $29.72 after expenses and taxes. And guess what? I'm able to maintain that. Let me pull this off screen for a second. I want to show you something. This is going to get the whole industry mad at me. This is going to have people saying negative things in the comments, but I don't care. I'm going to show you my acceptance rate. So here's my acceptance rate. I had to move it off screen because as you're navigating to your acceptance rate, it shows your license number, your license plate number. I'm not trying to show you guys that. So let's switch this up a little bit. So it's my acceptance rate right down here, 99%. I was aiming for 100, but I got a ride that would have taken me out of a bonus zone. It was like a 15-minute ride. And it was a time where I get a lot of quick rides. And as you can see, I only had 6 minutes left to hit the bonus. And it was on the last night. So if I had taken that ride, I would not have hit the bonus. And I really wanted to have 100% acceptance rate just for the sake of getting on YouTube and say, hey, I made this amount of money and still kept the high AR and still made profits. Like I'm operating at around a 10% expense ratio, which means I have like a 90% profit, which means I'm essentially 10x in my money. For roughly for every $100 I spend, I make roughly $1,000. That's 10x, right? 10 times 100 is 1,000. So that's pretty good, even though I have a 99% acceptance rate. Now, I'm not telling you to go out there and make a 99% acceptance rate, but I do want to reiterate a thought process I've been having. And I think upfront pay, one, it was a disguise by Uber and Lyft to lower driver pay. I'm not skirting around that. But two, I don't think drivers have a good way to accurately identify what is a good and bad ride. Cherry picking is a strategy. It's like the stock market, right? You can pick single stocks, but over time, if you look at the math, most people lose money picking single stocks. The people who typically make money doing stocks, they're buying index funds. And index funds are stocks that hold a bunch of different stocks together. So for example, you can hold an index fund that has stocks from the top 500 companies in America. The top 500 companies in America aren't going to fail all at once, but individual stocks can. And that's what kind of like what I'm noticing about cherry pickers. They want to pick the individual stocks, but they're doing a bad job of picking those individual stocks. Maybe they'll win sometimes here, but for overall, I don't think they're doing pretty well. It's usually people who are saying they cherry pick that aren't making a lot of money. Even Jeff Hoeing, who got on Show Me the Money podcast, who wrote his book about accepting every ride, he's making money, and a lot of people have negative things to say about him. But I'm not telling you accepting every ride is the strategy you should use, and I'm not saying cherry picking is the strategy you should use. I'm saying you should know have a good rule of when to use cherry picking or when to keep your acceptance rate up. So that's something you need to think about. People are going to call me the S word because of it. And it's what it is. I have my numbers in front of you guys. I'm showing you guys proof. And I would challenge you. If you're not making money right now, so having a high acceptance rate is only part of the story, because I'm not being fully honest with you guys. I am cherry picking. I'm cherry picking the best times to drive, right? If I know I'm going to go and drive at the best time, at the best place, then the chances of those rides being better than other rides are better, right? If you drive during traffic periods, you probably should cherry pick. But my overall advice to you would be, don't drive during traffic periods, right? Because overall, you get stuck in traffic, it's going to suck. But for me, I focus on cherry picking the best days to drive and the best times to drive. Now, I only drove 40 hours last week, and I made that. Let me go back to it. All right, boom. One day, 40 hours. This is my book time. I don't want to see my book time. I want to see my overall time. When did they change this screen? Now, online is what matters most. Do you have drivers out there that will tell you they made $40 an hour, but they're only looking at their book time? Book time is cool to look at, but online time is the most important thing. And I didn't realize it, but Lyft is hiding the online time. I don't like that. And then they put it in days. Like, come on, man. They want you to do extra maths to figure out how much money you're making per hour. I'm so disgusted right now. All right, so I'm gonna have to dive into that later. But you guys can see I'm telling you what my strategy is. I'm using the same strategy I tell you guys to use. I'm showing you how much money I'm making, and I'm being as upfront as possible. I also want to show you something else in my spreadsheet that I put it at the bottom. I calculate my offline time. If I'm driving, and this is my offline time, offline. If I'm out there driving and I turn my app off, but it's to work, like I might be repositioning myself, or I might be deadheading. I might have dropped the passenger off. I turn the app off and I need to deadhead back to downtown where the bonuses are. I start a timer on my watch, and I calculate those offline times and I add it to my spreadsheet. Most of the drivers on YouTube who are telling you how much money they're making aren't doing this. And so when you're watching those videos, pay attention to that. You know, look at what time they started driving, look at what time they ended driving. And then when the number, their online time doesn't match up to that time, you know, just do your own math in your head. You don't have to call them out for it, but it's not accurate to, if there are some drivers who they'll sit down at a gas station, they'll wait for surges to pop up, and then they'll turn their app on. If they were offline for the sake of making time easy for an hour, and then they drove another hour, and then they made $50 for that time, they didn't make $50 an hour. They made $25 an hour. So that's something to as you're watching everyone's videos on YouTube, try to keep, focus on the math. Focus on making the math as accurate as possible. And that's what my goal is. And if there's something I can do to make my math more accurate, call me out. I'm all about accuracy. I don't mind. I might challenge you, right? You might think it's better. Someone told me that they think it's better to use the standard mileage deduction to calculate your actual expenses. He said, if you drive 1,000 miles, and it's 67 cents per mile, then your expenses was $607. And to that, I responded, it will always be more accurate to calculate accurate numbers, right? People will disagree with that, and I just don't understand how. I don't know what more I can say. If you're running a business, it's better to have accurate numbers. You can't just be lazy and just use the standard mileage. The standard mileage deduction is an average of expected expenses per mile for all independent contractors, including truck drivers. Truck drivers have to spend more money to keep their truck moving, right? It's probably the same thing for construction drivers. Rideshare drivers can operate at the lowest end of that spectrum. And so we can pocket the difference in tax-free income. So using the standard mileage deduction as like a base for calculating all of your potential expenses is a terrible idea. And you should use your actual expenses, because I even calculate mine per mile. I'm at 9 cents. Now, okay, again, all of my expenses aren't in here yet, but just using this number for the sake of argument, I'm running my business like 50 cents better per mile than the government thinks I should. So if I were to use the standard mileage deduction to calculate whether I am or am not profitable, I will have a false notion of what my actual profitability is. And we don't want to do that. So now that I've shown you guys how much money I'm making, let's compare how much money I've been making to how much money other people make using the solo app.